Welcome to On the Middle East, the podcast of the award-winning media service Al Monitor, where each week we talk with the decision makers and thought leaders who are making the news and shaping the trends in the Middle East. I'm Andrew Parasiliti, president of Al Monitor, and our guest today is Mirza Dinnayi, 2019 Aurora Prize Laureate for Awakening Humanity and founder of the House of Coexistence in Sinjar. Mirza and I will discuss why Sinjar, Iraq, home to the Yazidi religious minority, which suffered immensely from the genocidal policies of the Islamic State, has become a recent flashpoint for the competing interests of Iraq, Turkey, Iran, and the various Kurdish groups active in the region. My conversation with the Yazidi human rights activist Mirza Dinnayi begins now. Mirza, welcome to On the Middle East.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Let's start with culture and context. Tell us briefly about Sinjar, Iraq, its people, its culture, its geography, and especially about the Yazidi population that lives there.
Sinjar is a region, a district belong to the Nineveh province on the northwestern side of Iraq, on the Syrian border. It's actually a forgotten area. Nobody hears about the name of Sinjar because of two reasons. One of them, because the majority of the population in Sinjar, 90%, were Yazidis, which is a small monotheistic religion in the pre-Islamic time, pre-Christianity time. This is one of the reasons, and it's a neglected area on the Syrian border. And without so real natural or economy resources, so therefore nobody heard about Sinjar until 2014, as ISIS attacked the Yazidis and committed genocide crimes. And then the world has asked, people have asked themselves, why ISIS is targeting exactly this small minority. Then everybody tried to see and read what are the Yazidis. And Yazidis actually is a small monotheistic religion. Actually, it's about 5,000 years old. They are indigenous people of Mesopotamia. They believe on one God. Our grandparents, grandfathers in the past, they believed on the sun. Sun is playing a very strong role in our religion because they were sun believer or sun worshippers. Unfortunately, in the last 1,000 years, Yazidis were victims of many genocides in that time because according to the Islamic, so radical Islamic version, let's say, Yazidis are somehow infidel or are devil worshipper. And this, the Yazidi have been accused because of that. Although the Yazidis are believing on one God, but they believe that their vision to the philosophy, to the creation of the world is a little bit different than the Abrahamic religion. So Yazidi believe that the God created himself and then the world, and there are 7 angels. There is no devil or there is no bad angels. All 7 angels are ruling the world. And the head of those angels is the God or Tawsi Malak. This is the problem that is making misunderstanding by other people, and it is a very peaceful religion because Yazidi are non-missionary religion. So you cannot be Yazidi. You should be from both parent sides a Yazidi to be accepted as a Yazidi. There are also inside Iraq, there are about 500 to 600,000 Yazidis, but Yazidi are also in Syria. In Turkey, they were a lot of Yazidi. They have been killed or Islamized and expelled from their area. And we have a community in Armenia and Georgia, small communities in Armenia and Georgia who escaped from the Ottoman Empire at that time, 200 or 250 years ago. And now the second biggest Yazidi community is actually in Germany. We have about 200,000 Yazidis in Germany. In US state, we have also a small community in Canada and other European countries who are originally actually from Iraq or Syria or Turkey.
Mirza, the Sinjar district in Iraq in Nineveh province is referred to as disputed between the Kurdistan region and the federal government. Tell us what that means, and does that impact the situation of Yazidis and others living in Sinjar?
Definitely, yes. After the fall of Saddam regime, actually, Sinjar was like other disputed areas in between Iraqi government and Kurdish government or Kurdish revolution. It was the whole time one of the disputed areas, beside Kirkuk, Makhmur, Khanaqin, and these areas. And because Sinjar was a disputed area, also according to the Iraqi constitution, paragraph 140, the future of Sinjar had to be defined according to this paragraph, either to be part of Iraq or to be part of Kurdistan regional area. But the problem is that because of this dispute, neither the Iraqi government nor the Kurdish authority could do or had or did a lot of development in this area. Therefore, Sinjar was in the whole time neglected by the government in the whole time. For example, after the fall of Saddam regime, Mosul province boycott the Sinjar, so there was no budget for more than 5 years spent in Sinjar. Nothing, no rebuilding, nothing. So this was a biggest challenge. After ISIS has attacked this region, 90% of the people escaped from Sinjar. So we had a population of about 400,000, and about 380,000 escaped from ISIS, and the whole region was completely empty until so except some mount area, because Sinjar is not only a region, so Sinjar also a mount, and the mount is about 50 kilometer long and about width is about 7 kilometer, and there were some villages on the mount where the IDP were displaced from the villages and went there, but 90% of the population escaped to Kurdistan or escaped outside of Iraq. So after liberation of Sinjar, it became again, because it's a border area, because it's an area directed to Syria, became a conflict area between the different militias who are ruling there. So the dispute was not solved and became more complicated.
I want to get into the details of that, but I think it would be worthwhile to spend just a few minutes talking about what happened in 2014 when the Islamic State moved into the district, as well as other parts of Iraq. Tell us what happened, the plight of the Yazidi people under the Islamic State, the genocide that they implemented, and how that has affected the community.
On the 3rd of August 2014, ISIS attacked systematically a Yazidi region in Sinjar, the whole Yazidi villages. They killed at least, we don't have exact numbers, about 10,000 people. They committed, we have now more than 80 mass graves around Sinjar. Some of them have been exhumed in last time, but the majority of these mass graves are still there since 8 years. The bones of those victims on the ground, because the UN agencies and the Iraqi government, they didn't do their job correctly, and they are elongating the procedure of exhuming and identifying those victims. Besides these 10,000 people who have been killed in Sinjar and people missed, ISIS also has captured more than 6,500 women and children. They killed the men and collectively, and enslaved women and children. And you hear definitely the story of the thousands of Yazidi women, girls who have been enslaved and sold inside the so-called Islamic State. the Yazidi people had to, unfortunately, in the 21st century, to rebuy their women, their wives, or daughter or sister. They have to buy them back to get them free from ISIS. ISIS committed a very clear the genocide and crimes against humanity, because ISIS was thinking that Yazidis are originally infidel people who are not believing in Islam and are not believing and not part of both Abrahamic religions, Christian and Judaism. So they're supposed to be infidels. Therefore, killing men, enslaving women, enslaving the people, and is legitimate for ISIS according to their Sharia. The Yazidi people escaped from Sinjar, just I said before. So about 380,000 people escaped from Sinjar and have been displaced to the Kurdistan regional area in different IDP camps, where they are living since August 2014 until today, unfortunately, in very miserable situation in the IDP camps in Kurdistan. And they didn't have the opportunity. Some of them returned back, about 30 or 40% returned back after 2016 and 17, after the liberation process was finished in Sinjar. They went back, but because of different political issues, the rest of them cannot go back. So the Yazidi population is, the majority now are still refugee and displaced in some areas outside of their own region.
Give us a little context about what the political disputes are now between Baghdad and Erbil around the district. There was an agreement between the Iraqi Kurdistan regional government and Baghdad in 2020, the Sinjar agreement, which was supposed to address many of these issues. But what you're telling us is they aren't being addressed, and many people aren't still going home.
Well, Sinjar is no more an internal or a domestic problem. It is no more a dispute between Erbil and Baghdad. Actually, now Sinjar is a dispute between different countries. We have the influence of Turkey and Iran. We have the militias backed by these groups and these states. We are interfering in the matter of Sinjar from different states. So that Sinjar became a strategic area. Therefore, we have various groups of militias who are there. Some of these militias are somehow have some affiliation to PKK. Some of them actually are normal Iraqi citizens who became part of PMU, Hajj-e-Shabi, or some of them are foreign fighters. So therefore, the Mount Sinjar is now no more, my opinion, that they are not, it is no more only a dispute between Baghdad and Erbil. Therefore, as the Sinjar agreement was signed, if we can't call it as agreement, as it was signed, only two partners, so the Iraqi government and the KRG, they have signed this agreement, and to 70 or 80% of the content of this agreement was very positive toward the stabilization of the region and bringing peace and sustainability to that region. But the problem is that the majority of Yazidis, who are actually the people of Sinjar or Shingal, they haven't been asked about the details of this agreement. So the Yazidis were not part of this kind of agreement. Therefore, the people who were in Shingal, they were not that happy with the content of the agreement. This is the first challenge. The second challenge was there was some point inside the agreement We know that there are different militias, and some of these militias have in a kind of an affiliation to PKK, or they are not PKK themselves, but they have helped Iraq. They have helped civilians to get free from ISIS, and they secured a corridor between the Mount and Syria and KRI to liberate about 100,000 Yazidi civilians who stuck on the Mount in August 2014. So those fighters, they feel themselves as a part of this area because they are actually normal volunteers. They were normal volunteers who were fighting beside the Iraqi army, beside Peshmerga forces, beside the other Hashd Shabi groups to liberate the area from ISIS. Now, those groups, because Turkey would like to expel all of them without to have any agenda of disarmament. And you know, the international experiences, if you have different militias and different armed group, and you have these different armed group, thousands of the people are joining them because they get salary, they get some support, and you go there and want, as a government or as a state, you want to solve that problem, you should find an opportunity for those people in order either to integrate them in some kind of institutions or offer them a kind of job or opportunity to live. But the agreement in the text, and I don't know that if the drafter or of the maker of this agreement were aware about that. So the message that came to the DOS population that this agreement will expel all of them outside of the country without giving them an open corridor in order to be integrated within the normal institutions, Iraqi institution or Kurdish institution or Kurdish forces. So and that was a very hard reaction from those groups against the agreement. Besides that, because the Iranian and the influence of Iranian-backed group, because they wanted to keep that corridor with Syria, the Iranians were not interested to implement such agreement. And some racist Arabic groups who didn't like to have the influence of the Kurdish parties in that area, they were also against the agreement. And Yazidi people are actually helpless and hopeless because the Yazidis, they cannot, they don't have any influence on the Iraqi politic. They don't have any influence on the Kurdish politic. The Iraq has no national agenda for the stabilization and transitional justice and rebuilding. So we stuck in that problem that the dispute cannot be solved. Every party want to implement all things without to make any kind negotiable. So therefore, we stop here since 2020, and even before, the situation in Sinjar was not better because of that.
Your analysis of the regionalization of the Sinjar issue is one that I think is we've covered very closely here at Monitor. The most recent confrontation escalation has been between Iraqi security forces and the Sinjar resistance units, the YBS, which you have said have, as you explained, have had support in the past from the Kurdistan Workers' Party, the PKK. And this has also stirred tensions with Turkey and to an extent the KDP. But how do you see this current confrontation, and do the Yazidi people want to be affiliated and linked and integrated with the Iraqi state, or is there some other kind of autonomy that they may be seeking?
Well, what the Yazidis are asking, actually, because they lost this trust to the state, so they feel themselves somehow unprotected by the state. So Yazidis have asked all the time that Sinjar should be a kind of somehow a kind of autonomy or a self-administration area with the people of Sinjar. Maybe a new province has to be established with some guarantees. So this will encourage the people to return back. Is a normal right of the people who survived the genocide. So we have a small indigenous group who live here since 5,000 years, and they have been victimized 1,000 times. And the genocide, this is not the first genocide. This is the 74th genocide that the Yazidi were suffering from. So now Yazidi feel that the responsibility of the international community, the responsibility of Iraqi state, is to establish somehow of a kind of administration and stabilization statute in this area to encourage those people to return back to the region. Iraqi state and KRG has to find an outcome, but with the advice and with the opinion of the Yazidi people, what the Yazidi people would like to have. And since the rest of the disputed areas is still unsolved, so Iraq generally has to find a solution for all disputed areas, not only Sinjar.
Mirza, we're almost out of time. Tell us about the House of Coexistence in Sinjar, which you are founding.
Well, in 2019, I won the Aurora Prize for Awakening Humanity for my engagement in humanitarian field, and especially on helping ISIS victims, women and children specifically. And I decided to donate that money prize to build a cultural center in Sinjar, because this is an area where a genocide has been committed. So I established a cultural house about 1,200 square meter with a public garden of 2.5 hectares. I symbolized all the component of Iraqi, the 8 religions of Iraq, in big symbols inside this garden. And this place, House of Coexistence, will be an independent foundation in order to promote peace, coexistence, reconciliation, rebuilding of the area. So this is what I thought that the area is needed, because the infrastructure in Sinjar is very poor. And in this area, the young people, women, and different communities can implement different projects in order to promote such kind of peace and sustainable projects in that area. This is the House of Coexistence, and therefore I called it House of Coexistence in order to show that even the Yazidis are after the genocide, and the people of Sinjar are still peaceful, are still one together in brotherhood and in solidarity with Muslim, with Christian, with everybody, every component, with the Turkmen, with the Mandaya, with all component of Iraq.
Mirza, this was really enlightening for me and for our listeners today. It was great to hear from you and to help us understand what's happening in Sinjar, and to learn about the important work that you are doing as a leader on these issues and with the Yazidi community in Iraq and internationally. Thank you for joining us today on the Middle East.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
We will return after this short break.
I'm Elizabeth Hagedorn, and I'm the State Department correspondent at Al Monitor.
And I'm Joe Snell. I'm Al Monitor's video editor. Let's admit it, this past year has been difficult to stay on top of the news and sift through what's accurate and what's misleading. Let Al Monitor help you.
If you care about the Middle East and North Africa, you should consider listening to Al Monitor's audio series On the Middle East with Andrew Parasalidi and Amber Zaman, and On Israel with Ben Caspi. You can now watch our newest video podcast, Reading the Middle East with Gilles Capel. You can subscribe to these series on your favorite podcast platforms.
And through a host of free daily and weekly newsletters, we offer a range of perspectives with the highest journalistic standards. You can subscribe to these newsletters at almonitor.com.
As an award-winning media service headquartered in Washington, D.C., Al-Monitor has a network of over 160 contributors around the world.
So if you haven't done so already, be sure to visit almonitor.com, where you can find all of these newsletters and podcasts, along with first-class reporting and analysis.
Thanks to our guest Mirza Dinnayi and our production team of Beowulf Rockland and Rosabelle Hine of Two Squared Media Productions. We will be back next week, and if you haven't done so, please sign up for all 3 of our podcasts at your favorite podcast platform. Reading the Middle East with Gilles Capel. Gilles' guest this month is Nobel Prize winning novelist Orhan Pamuk. On Israel with Ben Caspit. Ben speaks this week with Israeli Holocaust Memorial Chairman Danny Dayan. And of course, this podcast on the Middle East, where Amber Zaman will be here next week with another decision maker or thought leader in the region. Thank you all for listening, and please keep up with all of the news and trends in the Middle East at almonitor.com.